Hi you guys, it's Arielle. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to the podcast. It is the first time in a while that I've actually been able to put on some makeup and film. I had a consultation call this morning and I'm like, okay, if I do the call and then I film the podcast, that is justification enough to put on a little bit of mascara, which I'm not really supposed to be doing at the moment. I've had some bad eye problems and they've just been ongoing for a while and accumulated to a point where it got pretty bad. And finally, my doctors found the problem, prescribed the right solution, and I'm feeling much better. But I'm definitely supposed to go easy on any sort of eye makeup mascara at the moment. That said, I am very excited to be back sort of filming and stuff. It is funny because during that period where I was wearing zero makeup, I actually ran into a couple of you guys when I was out and about downtown Paris with Jean, and people didn't recognize me, but they recognized Jean. I'm like, I don't know how I should take that. I guess I do look quite a bit different. I think my eyelashes look very different. Like without mascara, my eyelashes are blonde, so they look almost invisible. So I can imagine that does take a second to recognize. But yeah, it was just pretty funny not at all being recognized, but Jean, having people come up to him. But also it was so much fun meeting you guys. I think I met in the past week and a half, three of you guys, which is, I don't know, what I think surprises me every single time, because I do have sort of this irrational fear of meeting people who watch me in real life. And it is just so funny, but it's every single time that when I meet someone, the conversation is immediately immaculate. Like, it's just the same level of energy and there's nothing awkward about it. It literally feels like running into a friend. And I was saving this to talk about at the end, but it really reminded me of why I like to do meetups, why I really want to organize another meetup this summer, is that it is just so much fun meeting you guys. And I think we have a lot more in common than even I realize sometimes, because I'm just like, talking to a camera, answering and talking to you guys in the comments and on Instagram and stuff. So yeah, I would love to keep it up and meet more of you guys in real life. So I think I am similar to what I did last year. I want to sort of gauge interest so I can pick the right activity, the right day, all of that. I am going to start leaving like a Google Form survey in the description and probably to a pinned comment below. That way, if you guys do want me to host another meetup this summer, I can definitely start planning and get the dates out in advance. And when I was thinking of what to do, of course, last year we did a little picnic and I would love to do that again. But something that I'm working on is actually doing guided tours of neighborhoods in Paris. And so I'm like, why not do a meetup where I do my guided tour just for fun and then we all go and have a picnic? I thought that could be a good idea. But yeah, I'm getting way ahead of myself. This was on my checklist to talk about at the very end of the podcast, but now that we're here, there will be a Google Form survey below. You guys can fill that out if you do want to participate in the summer meetup in Paris. Okay, moving on to our list of topics. I thought I would start with the update that everyone is probably most curious about. What is going on in our apartment search? What is the update? And the update is that we're still looking. I do have another video for you guys. It'll be out probably next week on my main channel, showing you the apartments that we are currently touring, which are quite fabulous. In terms of location, these apartments that we're getting to view are more central. So we've looked at one in the 2nd, one in the 7th, and I want to say one in the 8th, I think. and I have more visits planned for this week. But yeah, we're still looking. It is true that there's a little bit less urgency. Obviously, we are in spring in Paris. It is quite hot, especially compared to last year when it was the rainiest season I have ever seen. It was so cold. It was so rainy all of spring last year. And this year, it's kind of the opposite where it's sunny and hot and stuff. So it's no longer an issue that we don't have heat. And they did, I think I mentioned this on my main channel, but they did find a way to heat the water in the building. That involves electricity as opposed to gas. So there is sort of this temporary solution so that at least we have hot water. But I'm not confident that everything will be resolved by next winter, and it will for sure be problematic if we don't have heating in the apartment by the fall. So less urgency, but urgency nonetheless. We're also still having issues with the humidity with our bathroom, because our bathroom is connected to the bedroom, and the wall in the bedroom, the painting started to like peel off. And initially we thought it was a problem with the paint job, and we had the painter come back and look. And I mean, it is true, it was just isolated to one sort of cubic meter on the wall, and the whole apartment was repainted. So if it was really a problem with the paint, then it would have manifested like all over the apartment. So because of that, we are thinking that it is humidity related to the bathroom that is right behind our bedroom. And it is taking a long time for the insurances to check everything and find the core problem here, because it's easy to just paint over. It's easy to, I guess that's the only real quick solution you have, but painting over isn't going to fix the actual problem. And if there is a leak somewhere, whether it's like above or below or from our apartment, it's important, I think, to find it so that the damages don't become severe. So anyways, that is sort of like the only ongoing problem in the apartment at the moment. Whether or not we'll have heat in the winter, I'm not sure. I would hope, but yes, all that to say, we are continuing the search. I will say that I am... My situation is a little bit disheartening. It's definitely more complicated to look for an apartment when you own a business, when you work for yourself, when you don't have sort of the stability that landlords look for in someone that's employed with, a reputable, long-standing company where you have like a full employment history with the company. You have tons of pay slips where you can show them that you earn a reliable income. Like, that is not me at the moment with my business. Like I'm not sure that I would have the paperwork that would be adequate enough for a landlord to feel confident that I would pay my rent. So yeah, I think that's maybe the only setback that we'll come across as we are apartment hunting and applying for these apartments, but we'll see. Hopefully we have some positive news for you in our next update. Another topic that I had for this podcast, which is completely unrelated, but an update that I wanted to give nevertheless, is on friendships, my friendships in Paris. And I was thinking of what I could put in the title related to this topic. And the first thing that came to mind was, I found my French soulmate, which I think is true. I mean, of course, Jean is literally my number one everything, but I actually did not meet, because I actually met her 2 years ago, but I have really connected with a girl from my boxing class. And it's so funny because 2 years we have boxed in the same class together, and you spar casually with everyone, but you don't really have the conversations that allow you to build a deeper connection. But eventually we started talking about our jobs and what we do. And I talked a little bit about how I make YouTube videos and how I write guides and I do travel consultations. And she was like, oh my gosh, I have so many amazing restaurant and coffee shop addresses and locations that I could give you. Maybe it'll help you with your guides. And I was like, I would love that. Why don't we test some? And so we actually spent an entire day just testing a bunch of different coffee shops and brunch spots. And it was just insane to me how similar we are and how much we are on the same page about so many topics. And there was a point in our conversation where we were just like, are we sisters? What is this? How are we so similar? And the only thing that is unfortunate is we have a mini language barrier. At least I have a mini language barrier. I am bilingual, okay? I have great French. I have spoken French my whole life. I've lived in France for 10 years, blah, blah, blah. But I have noticed a difference between going from a student studying in French and writing my thesis in French versus entering the workforce and working predominantly in an Anglophone environment, having mostly English colleagues, and now where I am alone here and do all of my work in English. So I definitely noticed a decline in the quality of my French, not just the quality, but my vocabulary. I have gotten into this tendency of saying ce truc, un truc, le truc. Truc just means the thing. You know, instead of using the proper word for something, I'll just say, oh yeah, the thing. And it's not good. It's not good. Sometimes I feel like I can't express myself. Not sometimes. Often I feel like I can't express myself in French in the same way that I would in English, which I think is common across the board for people who are speaking not in their mother tongue. Like, we all have different personalities in languages that are different from our mother tongue. But yeah, I do really notice that my French has gone down a little bit in quality. And so sometimes I feel like I'm boring people of my age when I speak in French because I don't have the adult vocabulary that a almost 30-year-old woman should have. Again, this could just be in my head, but it is something that I worry about when I'm having these conversations. And yeah, it is hard not be able to express yourself the way that you want to in the language that you're speaking. But aside from that, it is so cool to finally meet another woman in France that I just feel so connected to and so similar to, like a real friendship. I feel like we are forming a real solid friendship. And it was so funny. We went to a workout class and we were sitting on the steps of like a church afterwards with our little matchas having a break. And she was like, hey, if you're not busy on this date, I really want to invite you to my birthday party and you can come meet my family and like you can even stay over if you want because it's outside of Paris. And I turned to her and I'm like, you know, this is the first time that a French girl has invited me to her birthday party. Like, are we friends or what? It was just so cool. Such a good feeling. So that sort of kick-started this new era in my life of building a better friendship group in Paris. I was also back on Bumble a couple months ago and I met this really fun American girl. We have, again, lots of things in common. And when I went on my ski trip, a friend's friend came on the trip with us and her and I like super bonded, again, very similar. And yeah, I've also been hanging out with her as well. And so I have these 3 new friends that I feel like are real friends. And not just that, we have so much in common, like more in common than any other friend that I've had in France before. We all are very strong, powerful women. We are very much entrepreneurial. We work in social media spaces, like whether that's marketing or the tech side. We're all also freelancers or business owners, I guess you could say. We all work for ourselves pretty much, which means our schedules are a little bit more flexible than if we were all working like a 9 to 5. So yeah, it has been fantastic. And the reason why I bring this up is because for the longest time, you guys have heard me talk about how my past friendships never really felt solid. They were never fulfilling to me in the way that these new friendships are. When I first moved to Paris, I made this fantastic friend group. Over time, it slowly started to disintegrate. Like, it really didn't stand the test of time. It was good for one summer. After that, it just, kind of went downhill from there. And it ended up being just the core group of us who are left, like 4 or 5 of us who are left. And I sort of clung to this group, even if there were a lot of problems. Like, you guys will remember all of the times I talked about how I didn't feel valued. I didn't feel like my friends were there for me, that they were putting in the same time and love and energy as I was into the friendship. And even if I wasn't satisfied with those friendships, I was really worried to lose them. I was coming at it with this idea of friends are better than no friends, even if they make you feel terrible. which in hindsight is obviously not a good mentality to have. But eventually, there was the straw that broke the camel's back, which kind of happened when we were on the ski trip. There were a lot of different incidents. You guys will remember because I talked about it, but basically for that ski trip, I spent weeks planning everything from A to Z, not just planning, but doing all of the shopping, doing all of the cooking, which again, I am happy to do because a huge joy for me when I'm on vacation is not having to worry about running around getting groceries, cooking. I love to eat. I like to have good food accessible. So I don't have a problem spending extra time doing those things. It would be nice to have a thank you. I didn't really get a thank you, but that's okay. No one is counting thank yous. What bothered me, what really was like the catalyst for the very first incident, let's say, of this ski trip, where by the end of it, I was like over these friendships, is, I sent everyone I sent everyone an Excel spreadsheet that I had worked hours on making, okay? And it was sort of the menu for the week. And I basically wanted to know what people wanted to eat, drink, snack on, what beverage they had for breakfast, like everything from do you have cream in your coffee to what juice do you want? Do you prefer wine or beer? Like literally, it was a very detailed spreadsheet. And one of the people on the ski trip said to me, okay, well, I guess I can, I have no problems filling in your spreadsheet, but I'm not doing more than that. I'm not doing the groceries. I'm not doing the cooking, like whatever. It felt like they were annoyed with me for asking them to fill in this spreadsheet. And I'm like, the solution to not planning in advance is we arrive there and we can't buy groceries. And so we have to spend thousands of euros eating out every single night. Like that is the alternative. And obviously by the end of it, everyone was very, thankful, I think, that I had prepared so much in advance. But it just really irked me that they assumed that I would do everything and that their contribution would be filling in my spreadsheet, but nothing more. They weren't willing to help with the preparation. They just assumed that I would do everything. And that bothered me because in a real friendship, like everybody would work together to make sure that everybody had a really good time. So that was just the first thing that kind of snowballed into the total dismantling of this friendship group. And my point is, I really clung to this group for a long time. I didn't make the effort to go out and make other friends purely out of fear that I would be lonely, out of fear. I forget which fallacy it is, the time wasted fallacy. But it is, with anything, whether it's a romantic relationship, whether it's a friendship, that you have invested so much time, so much effort into a friendship. It can be really hard to let that go if it's really making you feel terrible. Like you feel like you've invested so much work into something, it's hard to say goodbye. But ultimately, I had to. I wasn't feeling good about those friendships. I wasn't feeling respected. I wasn't feeling like the friendship was reciprocal, like it was mutually supportive. And at the end, I now have an amazing group of like-minded women who are uplifting, who care about me, and it is the most exciting. You actually would have seen Bonnie in my most recent video when I showed the rooftop. She came with me to Cafe Oz, and I have a couple other videos that are upcoming with some of the girls being featured in them. I don't love to film my friends all the time. I feel like whenever you bring out a phone or whenever you bring out a camera, it really takes away from the moment in the present. So yeah, they're not in many videos, but I do hope that you guys will see a glimpse of them in some upcoming ones. And I think this is your sign. If you are also struggling like me to let go of something that is ultimately harmful, that is not really serving a positive purpose in your life, that's not giving you positive energy, let it go and only good things. There are only good things that can come, Speaking of relationships, I do want to talk a moment about Jean. So basically, I have been I've been working very hard on 2 new guides. I'm going to let you in on the secret. I haven't really talked about this on my main channel, but I am working on 2 sort of day trip guides from Paris. One to Fontainebleau and one to Reims. Fontainebleau is just an hour outside of Paris, and it's sort of the vacation home of the French kings. You have Versailles, which is the kingdom, the palace, the palace. And then you have Fontainebleau, which is where the kings would go to vacation. And it's a very beautiful town. There are so many things to see and do. So I'm writing a day trip guide for that. And then Reims is the unofficial capital of Champagne in France. It is the most beautiful region. I'm doing a bunch of trips back and forth constantly to both of these places so I can, test everything, really do a good job writing this guide. And yeah, that's been fantastic. But especially for Reims, because it is wine country essentially, you can just do a day trip to the city, like the city center of Reims, but you can also go for a weekend, rent a car, and tour all of the different champagne houses in the countryside. And to do that, I obviously require a chauffeur because I can't drive. So Jean actually accompanied me one weekend to, help me continue writing this guide. And I mean, there's 2 things I want to talk about with Reims. The first thing is Jean. It's so funny, but at about the 2-year mark for Jean and I noticed a change in the love that I was feeling. Like, obviously, I have loved Jean for, a long time. But at the 2-year mark, I really noticed that it was a different type of love, like a deeper, more profound kind of love. And at first it was a little bit confusing because when you love someone, it is strange to feel like you wake up loving them even more than before. Like, it doesn't feel possible. But so anyways, that really happened for me around the 2-year mark. And then we went to Reims a couple months later, and I don't know, it was blissful. It was just the most perfect weekend. There was no one else on this world that I wanted to be there with other than Jean. And it just felt like we were so connected. Like, our minds were just one, There was no type of conflict. There was no type of negotiating the activities we're doing or worrying about, do you like this? Do I like this? Are we both happy with the schedule we're doing? Like, I don't know. It was just seamless. I don't know how else to describe it, but there were a bunch of different champagne houses that I wanted to test. He was completely on board. We're just driving through. He's happy to drive where I need to go. Like, I don't know. It feels so easy. It feels so simple to be together. It's something that I have never, ever felt before in any other relationship. I've been in quite a few. And this is truly the first time where I feel like there is not a single person who could be a better partner for me than Jean. Like, I don't know. It's a level of happiness. It's a level of peacefulness and love that I didn't even know that you could feel. And yeah, I guess you'll have to stay tuned for the engagement. We have been looking at rings. You guys know this, but I have been filming a bit of this process. I have the video pretty much done. I wasn't sure if we were going to look at more rings. We kind of found the ring of my dreams pretty recently. So yeah, you guys do have that video to look forward to. But all that to say, things could not be more perfect. And I was saying this to Jean the other day, but I'm like, it is so crazy to me that I dated other people for long periods of time and truly thought that that's what partnership was, or that I thought that these were the people that I would end up with. When you turn the page and I'm with, Jean, and it's just truly the best I've ever felt ever. It's so hard to explain. I'm like, I don't want to be too mushy. I don't want to start crying, but yes, that's the first topic. Reims was a beautiful trip that Sean and I shared. Oh, I also filmed the vlog, which you guys will see. But the other point is Reims is a fantastic place to visit. I'm not just saying that because I'm writing a guide for it, but if you like wine country, if you're interested in wine, if you're interested in the French wine culture, I cannot recommend Champagne enough. It is superior, in my opinion, to Bordeaux. And so we spent our first day touring the smaller wineries that are in the countryside of Reims. And then the second day, we spent it visiting the Grande Maison, the big houses of Champagne. For example, Veuve Clicquot. We know this one in the US and in Canada, or Ruinart. These are the big champagne houses that are all basically owned by LVMH. And some I liked, some I didn't like. I really did not enjoy the experience at Veuve. I found it extremely commercialized. It felt like just a zoo of tourism. There was nothing personal about the visit. There was nothing authentic about the visit. Like, our tour guide would stop. She would stop pretty much every 5 minutes, be like, oh, this is a great picture. Get this for your Instagram. And I'm there with like my notepad taking notes for my guide. And I'm like, I am not here for Instagram pictures. I'm here for a tour. And so I won't lie. I did have a bias against these big champagne houses. I don't talk a lot about my personal beliefs anymore on my main channel. I really try to keep it Paris focused, but I think that you guys can gather more about my belief system and who I am in my heart through my videos. For example, I really do care for craftsmanship. I care about the artisans. I care about small businesses that are making a big impact, that are carrying centuries worth of tradition, whether that's the chocolatier Alain that I interviewed in my last video, whether that's, the chef from Le Meha. All of these different people that I interview, I think shows you that I really value protecting culture and heritage and uplifting artisans and small businesses, especially in a world where it is so easy to be swayed or distracted by companies that are very popular, companies that have recognizable logos. I see it when I talk to these artisans. They are fighting an uphill battle to compete with industrialization, to compete with businesses that have a monopoly of a market, and to compete with prices that these bigger brands can offer that they simply can't because they're still working in the traditional artisanal ways. And to tie this back to Champagne, I really felt strongly about this as we were touring the smaller houses because their tours were so much better. They were so much more personal, much more in-depth. You could feel the passion that they had for their product because it is literally, they are the ones that are in the fields, checking the grapes, taking care of the grapes, picking the grapes, making the champagne. Like on our tour, we had one tour where the wife was giving us a tour and we go down into the cellar, we see her husband who is manually turning every single champagne bottle one by hand. And in the Grande Maison, this is all done with a robot today. This is a part of the champagne making process that is lost because of the need to produce more at a cheaper price or, to save costs on labor and stuff. I believe that when you do this, you do lose tradition in a sense. And I was so adamant on this, on needing to support the small champagne houses. And I felt almost this anger towards the big brand champagne houses that are known around the world, that export globally, that are part of this big LVMH corporation. And going to Champagne and hearing what the small champagne houses had to say about this actually changed my perspective and made me realize that I do have some flaws in my own thinking process because I'm very stubborn. Sometimes I attach myself too strongly to one certain worldview that I can't see everything around me. And so one of the smaller champagne houses on the tours that we did was saying how, yes, it is complicated to compete with the literal worldwide notoriety of a brand like Veuve Clicquot, but because that brand is so famous, it sort of uplifts the champagne industry as a whole. So even though Veuve is high up there, even though they attract a vast majority of the clientele, it is because of brands like Veuve and Ruinart that champagne is known, that champagne is popular, and that trickles down to benefit these smaller champagne houses as well. And so it really made me realize that not everything is black and white, that if you have a balanced ecosystem, that is what's most important. That said, though, I won't say my opinion is completely changed because the region in Champagne is defined. You can't make the region bigger. So there really is a maximum amount of champagne that you can produce, and that number does not increase year over year. It is a maximum, like a strong maximum. And so for companies like LVMH that own all of these huge champagne houses, if they want to produce more champagne, they have to buy more fields. And so I worry sometimes that this ecosystem could become unbalanced if there is a total monopolization of all of the different champagne farms. Vineyards, graperies, please. Vineyards, if there is a monopolization where it gets to a point that Veuve or Ruinart has bought up all of these smaller vineyards, and yeah, you really offset the ecosystem. So I don't know if any of that was clear, but it did make me rethink my worldview, and it made me realize that I should be a little bit less stubborn on topics like this. So Reims was a couple weeks ago. This past weekend and the weekend prior, actually, Jean and I have completely worked on the spring cleaning of our apartment. So I have officially changed over my winter wardrobe to my spring and summer wardrobe. Due to the size of our apartment, and not just this apartment, like I've always had this, the bed that I've owned for years, almost ever since I moved to Paris, because it has a storage compartment under the bed, and I have always kept my winter clothes or my spring and summer clothes, like depending on the season, I've kept what I'm not wearing under the bed in space saver bags. And now that we have like a cave, a storage space in the basement of our building complex, we spent weeks ordering shelves, building the shelving in this cave. I think I even took a picture so I could show you. It is so funny because we went from literally just throwing everything into this cave and just piling everything on top to the point where you couldn't even open the door without everything falling down on you. We ordered all these shelves. I organized all of our clothes into space saver bags. We got rid of all of, I don't know, not junk, but the stuff that we weren't using anymore, like the shirts, the shoes, the household appliances that hadn't been touched in over 2 years. We donated everything. I don't know, maybe you can see, maybe you can tell. I guess you can't. It doesn't really look that different, but we just have completely reorganized our space, which is so nice. It feels so good. It even feels good to open my wardrobe every day and see all of the spring and summer colors and know that all of these dresses I'll be able to wear in a couple weeks. I also ordered some espadrilles, and I debated doing a video on this, but I think I'm going to, because a girl's girl doesn't gatekeep, and these are just the most comfortable, beautiful summer shoes to wear, and I thought it'd be fun to share it with you because it took me years to find a brand that was actually comfortable. I think it'll be a lifesaver if you're also looking for an espadrille style flat or wedge. So yeah, those are, I think, all of the updates I have for you guys. I know it has been way too long since the last podcast and this one. And I'm always like, oh, it's a good thing. I have so many things that I can talk about. But that is problematic in and of itself, because then it's just too many topics and I feel like there's just too many things bouncing around in my brain. So we are going to try, and I know I say this every video, I'm really going to try. It is so crummy because I love filming podcasts, but I feel like I never have enough time to. And today I'm filming because Jean is out having some drinks with friends. So I have the whole night to film and edit and post. But yeah, you're also going to see this channel flooded with videos. I have probably 7 videos lined up for this channel, but I was like, Arielle, you can't post those videos until you post a podcast update. But I have the espadrille video. I did some French auction house shopping. I cannot wait to show you what I got. I have some cooking videos. Like, there's just oh my gosh, the engagement ring video. So many videos coming your way. Now that this is out, be prepared to be sick of me on this channel. And also, like I said, the form, the little Google survey for the potential summer meetup will be down below if you want to fill it out. Let me know if it's a good idea or a bad idea. I would love that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a really good rest of your week, and I'll see you soon.